the
I doubt
real
it.
property and environmental concerns meeting to order. Just a brief note before we start.
I wanted you to join us. Okay.
Environmental concerns, today is the SALT Summit. This year, it was at Sagamore last year, this year it's at Fort William Henry. It is an effort, local effort, as well as countywide and several countywide, concentrating on Lake George. It's very interesting, a lot of science involved there. They have a lot of the local DPW people. They're the ones that are going to fight the fight. So they bring them in and do a lot of demonstrations, have live demonstrations. We've got a couple trucks all pricked out for reducing salt usage on our highways. That we doing demonstrations in the parking lot. Other than that, we're going to go right to real property.
This is the place with the asbestos.
Have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. Ron? Jean? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, Alex.
Okay. To start off, there's a resolution request to accept the bids from the October 15th, 2016 Warren County Tax Foreclosure Auction. We do have a list of all the bids, the amount of taxes that were due, and the sale price. But we just need approval for them to be able to go before the full board.
You'll see several of them have been X'd off.
Oh, these ones here, nothing on what I gave you is everything that went to the auction.
Right.
There's only one on the first page that's highlighted in your sheets in yellow. That was a no sale. And then on the next page, there was 3 of them in Thurman that were all like kind of connected. There were 3 separate parcels, so we sold them kind of like as a one, just for the convenience of whoever used them, because there was one behind, one alongside, and then one there in the front. So those were sold together. So the total sale at the auction was $625,275. We had outstanding taxes of $177,865.35 for a difference of $447,409.65 after the outstanding taxes.
Good job.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Peter?
Is
Jean?
Yeah, Lexi, you get a little percentage of this? Great job.
I hope so.
I do not.
Peter?
Maybe there'll be a raise this year.
Is 852 Ridge Road, is that the site where the automobile place used to be?
No, that 852 is a class code, is what that is that you're seeing.
Okay.
It's Ridge Road is the old landfill.
Okay.
From the construction landfill.
Which one on here is the automobile place?
A little bit further down, which is the 894 Ridge Road, and then the one right below that just says Ridge Road is the vacant lot right next door.
I see.
So that's the auto place that burnt down, right?
Correct.
So that has been sold,
Yes, it has.
and so now the liability for the cleanup and all that stuff is no longer ours or the town of Queensbury's. It is now the responsibility of the buyer, bidder, Joe Gross.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
So one elementary question, and that
Sure.
is the difference between a sale price and taxes due, does the county basically just absorb that?
That money goes into the general fund minus a percent that goes into the reserve testing fund that we use for the possible cleanups of other property.
Okay, I don't know if that's what I asked, but maybe you are answering it. They bought it for $5,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking that particular property, okay.
Yeah, they bought it for $5,000, and the taxes due were
$9,947.90.
So that difference is, we just kind of basically eat the taxes?
Right, because what happens at the tax sale is the county makes the money on the overall auction. So if you go to the second page and you look at the taxes due for everything on all of these properties was $177,865.35. And if you look at the sale price amount, you can see that we've definitely made the difference.
Yeah. Absolutely,
So that's
yeah.
how it works at these tax sales, because if you look at the piece right next to it, the very next one, those taxes due were only $3,409.54, owned by the same person prior, but we made $9,000.
Right.
So between the two, we made like a little over $1,000 on those two.
Good, thank you.
I think that was more to the point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you lost on one, you made up on the other.
Absolutely, yep, yep.
Claudia?
I get that point, but is there ever an appropriate time to say we need a floor, that we're not gonna sell this for $25? I mean, that seems,
No, I think we're trying to get rid of it and get it back on the tax roll. If we keep it, we're not getting any taxes. If somebody buys it, chances are good they're gonna do
are we
something with it.
looking at these though to say, hey, maybe this could be a county benefit to have this piece of property instead of getting it back on the county roll?
Not generally
We're not in the
speaking,
habit
they're
of
not
just
valuable to the county.
Wanting to own property like that.
You know, they're out in a residential area, what are you gonna do with them?
Well, that's, as someone looking at that though, is that part of our process, that we look and say, okay, this is just
Oh, yeah, they go out and
another
assess
residential
all.
lot, we don't need this?
We, myself and the treasurer, we go out and we post either in June or July, if they don't answer the petition, and then we go back out before the last chance meeting and post foreclosure notices on any of the properties that have not paid at that point. So yes, we do go to the property.
But I think, in answer to your question, there have been times when properties that didn't sell, that we did approach the
Neighboring owners.
neighbors and go back and talk to them. There's been a few times of that, but as far as looking at the value of the property and putting a upset price on it, we have never done that, as far as I know. Mike,
No.
do we?
No, we have, we did away with that a long time ago, but what does happen sometimes is, we do talk to the towns, and there are some instances where the towns will want properties.
Yeah.
Warrensburg has gotten a few that way.
Queensbury.
That you wanted, Luzerne, and there is a policy in place to get that property, once the county forecloses on it, to move it over to the town.
Because we
So
don't
we do.
necessarily have to sell ones for $25, or ones that might be valuable for other reasons.
Well, if,
Goes
you
to
know, I've been doing
tax
this a long
sale.
time, I've sold properties for $5, and the main reason is that they have no value, and we're trying to get rid of them.
And sometimes, like Mike says, there is no value, but maybe to a neighbor, and they may come to the auction and purchase it, you know, and if they can get something for $25, they would prefer to pay $25 than $25,000, you know, I mean, if there's not value to it.
I just, yeah.
I see a Terra Prime on here, 6 times on the front page. Who's Terra Prime? What person is it?
That's her name.
Mother
That
Earth.
is her name.
That is her name, okay.
It's just
Mother
an
Earth.
individual that came and
Okay.
bid,
Got an interest, yeah?
she
Okay.
had an interest in quite a bit at the auction.
Good, good.
She bought numerous properties from us.
Every auction, there seems to be somebody who comes in who maybe has not experienced the auctions before, and they will buy a multitude of properties. And this woman we did speak with, and she has every intention of paying off everything that she bought, so.
Matt, did you have?
Yeah, okay, later.
You also have to understand that, like on a $25 piece of property, in order for them to file the deed, it's gonna cost over $300. So they actually have more than $25 into it just to get title to it.
Good point. Supervisor McDonald?
Yeah, it's just kind of the answer to Supervisor Kramer. Some of those properties that, inner city, the DSS ones, one of the ones we wanted to alleviate, one of those properties is, you can't build anything on it.
Right.
But there's a couple of neighbors that wanna add to their property. And so rather than that piece of property sitting idle, now it's gonna go back on the tax rolls that would have otherwise not been contributing to the city. So, you know, that's an example of why a $25 thing is actually a big benefit.
Well, you know, and what you also have to understand is all these smaller parcels, the county is actually paying taxes on them for the years that they're in delinquency. We have to pay, the county has to pay the school district and the municipality the taxes on it. So it's not even the fact that it's not, you know, generating any tax. It is generating tax for the school district and the town, but at the county's expense.
Right.
So the way I look at it, if we can get it off of our back for $25 and let somebody else pay those taxes, you know, we're one up on the game.
Supervisor Montesi?
Just a question, the piece of property that sold for $248,000 on Corinth Road, what is that?
The old contour property, the vacant lot just down past Stewart's on the opposite side of the road. It used to, I'm not sure what it was when it was commercial, what they did there.
They had a tire sales, truck tire repair type, operation on it, but that's going back, there hasn't been a building on that property since the early eighties.
Okay, so this is an empty lot on.
It is. The man that purchased it is from the Midwestern part of New York State. He goes to some of the auctioneers' auctions, and he happened to see this on here. He owns, like, I think it's a container business or something with trailers. So I'm thinking that possibly he may be wanting to do something commercial on it and put a business there, maybe extend his business this way. But he came here purposely for that property. Yeah,
Be a good location for 'em.
yeah, it is. That's all commercial now down right through there.
So, Lexi,
Taxes.
just so I'm clear, when the taxes are due, the sale price, who's paying the back taxes?
That's why I'm showing you the difference, or telling you the difference, because that's, this money, the county makes everybody whole. So the taxes, these are outstanding, but the school taxes have been paid by the county. So this is a bill that's sitting here on our end at the treasurer's office. So this money that we sell these for, that money goes back to reimburse that amount of taxes that's due, and then the difference is the
So it comes
proceeds.
out to $625, so we make ourselves whole on the $177 on the $625 that we got in total number, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we take a piece and we set it aside for if we need to
The reserve
have certain,
fund,
the
portion
reserve
of it
fund.
goes into the
Right.
reserve testing fund.
Okay.
Anybody else?
How much do we have in the reserve fund?
Not considering what, this auction, I think we're at about 160,000.
Some of those environmental concerns on some of those properties are pretty healthy bills to make them clean. So it may seem like a lot of money, but it's not really. A couple of those buildings in right outside the city there, that one building we had forever, had all kinds of issues. They did everything in it. So,
Property in Queensbury, on Ridge Road, I think the estimate was $70,000 to clean up that, asbestos, if there is asbestos.
right, yeah. If there isn't, it's nothing. Okay. Do we get a motion?
No.
We'll have a motion to accept these tax bills? All right, Craig, second. Peter, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, next is a resolution request to approve the chargebacks of back of taxes. These are both pilot agreements. That would be the portion of the money to come into the county for the pilot.
How does this work?
There's pilot agreements that are set up ahead of time.
Yep.
And then this, what this resolution does is it allows us to accept our portion in through the treasurer's office.
That's a payment in lieu of taxes.
Right, I'm familiar with, but it's always funny to have to, anyway. I'll make a motion, we accept money.
Good move. Claudia,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next is under pending items. At our last meeting, we had talked about the temporary incidents of ownership and being able to actually clean up the properties under that. I've spoken with our county attorney, Brian, and Brian has done some research on that, so I think I'm just gonna turn it over to him and let him explain to you what he found.
Go for it.
Thank you. The provision of the environmental conservation law that grants the county the temporary incidence of ownership is limited to restoration investigation projects, and there is no authority in that section of law to allow you to do the cleanup and get the benefit of not being an owner. What happens here is once you're an owner, you get stuck with liability for a hazardous condition on the property. going forward forever. If we do a mere investigation, we do not have to get that tag of liability forevermore. Unfortunately, we could do the cleanup, but that's not covered by the temporary incidence of ownership. So if we did the cleanup, we would get tagged with liability for any remaining hazardous waste, or even we'd be on the hook. Even if there's not good liability, we'd be on the hook as an owner in the future, and we'd get named in a lawsuit. So my advice is to not do the cleanup in this point. We could apply for some state funding that would allow the cleanup to get done at state expense, and we would not have the liability problem, but we can't just go ahead and do it ourselves.
So these properties we've been going on the last few years, we've done that illegally?
We've done it properly and lawfully, but
Right.
we can't do the remediation, we can do the investigation. We're allowed to do the investigation and not get the liability problem, but not to actually do the cleanup.
Got it. Does anybody have any questions about that? Claudia?
Well, last month we talked about one where a tank needed removed. I think it's a risk-taking endeavor if we decide, maybe this is the only thing that needs to be done, and we do it, taking on the risk that we might become owners of a problem. But if our investigative report says this is the only thing, maybe we could go forward with that final removal step or cleanup step. I mean, I just don't like to see us leaving the properties unclean, knowing where we stand, that we don't want to take on that liability. And knowing that we could have the state come and help us if
Well, you
needed.
get to the issue of the point. I mean, the reason we do that is so we can make them saleable, but if
Mhm.
you do the testing and you find you have a problem and you're not gonna clean it up, then they're not really saleable. You've answered some questions, but you haven't answered all of them.
The problem of it is with the one with the tanks, yes, that's what they can determine at this point, those tanks need to be removed, but once you remove the tanks, we don't know what lies underneath. So then, if we get involved with removing those tanks, and then there's an issue underneath where they've leaked and contaminated further, then that adds more expense and more liability to us. So that's why, the biggest thing, I think anyways, is reaching out to DEC to see what we can do to get, help from the state to do those cleanups.
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, I think they re-energized the brownfield grant process, so I think we should apply for, if we can. I mean, or at least get the town of Johnsburg to apply for, I mean, Warrensburg cleaned up 2 properties. We have no liability, we cleaned up 2 properties. And I think we should investigate, either partnering with the town of Johnsburg to get it cleaned up, or having the county clean it up. At least the one where we know what it is, and whatever comes back on that second property in Warrensburg, we ought to figure out too.
I like Martin's opinion better. Okay, anybody have anything else?
I get that from time to time.
All I have. That's
That's
it, that's all I have.
Anybody else have anything? Yes,
Thanks. I just wanted to report back that I haven't forgot about the last chance meeting protocol, and I'm brainstorming, gonna work with Lexi on that to try to come up with some proposal to present to the committee as how we can maybe streamline the process for next year.
great.
And just let me know when the meeting subject puts on. Mr. Chairman, I mean, on the previous topic, I think that this is where the thoroughness of the investigation, the completeness of the investigation pays big dividends. On one hand, you don't want to leave the contamination in the ground, right? That's not a good thing to do. On the other hand, I can understand, trying to measure the degree of the program. We're talking $50,000 program, a $500,000 program, how. But I like the idea of, I think Brian's absolutely correct, that once you become part of the title trail, then you're part of that responsibility trail as well. But, and I think that's where the brownfield program comes into play. That does have some elements that include mitigating that as an issue. So I would hope that our investigation shows that there may not be that serious an issue, perhaps we should move forward and do the cleanup ourselves. On the other hand, if we're a little bit concerned about it, maybe we sweep it, or maybe even a package of properties into the brownfield program. Maybe we plan to do that annually, where we have 3 or 4 properties, we march it forward through the brownfield program. And I guess, Lexi, my question would be for you, that's something that your good office would do, relative to these properties, is to prepare that, or would that be something that Lexi would then hand off to the planning office? I think we should be very clear as to what the procedure is going to be here, so that these things don't languish, that these things just sort of get out in limbo, and then we start dealing with the same issue, a year and a half from today, and opportunities are lost as it relates to these programs. I think that, we don't have to answer the question today, but I think there should be some sort of, someone should be assigned the responsibility of moving this and/or these properties through the brownfield program. Now, naturally, our attorney's going to be plugged in, but I think that maybe this is something that should fall to perhaps our planning office or some other office.
I'm going to reach out to DEC and question to see what is available, because I'm not 100% on the brownfield being available. It may be, but I'd like to see what DEC has to say and what they recommend on going forward. I think the county attorney's office would probably have to be involved in dealing with that. I think there's an application process for the brownfield.
Yeah.
Is that what you went through? So, but my biggest thing is waiting to see what DEC has to say, what's available for us at this time.
But I do think, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Well, 2 things. One, we've had a meeting with DEC and conversations with them. They're tickled to death about what Warren County is doing, because we're doing all the groundwork that they don't have the budget right now to deal with, okay? So they're happy that we are doing this and getting them to a point where we can come in and say, this is what's been found, this is what needs to be done. Because on most sites throughout the state, they don't have any idea, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, the Johnsburg parcel in particular, I've been dealing with that since 1990. I will guarantee you personally that will not fall off of the table, that one.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Mr. Chairman?
I would just say, though, because we've used the consultants and the people have done the investigation, they could certainly put through a brownfield application for us in pretty short order. With all the documentation they already have, we wouldn't have to go out and hire somebody new. You've got somebody that's done initial phase 1, phase 2 studies on these properties. They could probably put together the application process. I kind of agree with Claudia that clean it up if we can.
That's the big thing. What is available?
Jim?
Okay, can you explain to me if we get a brownfield grant and we clean it up, then we're not liable for any other thing, but if we do it on our own, we are liable. Why the difference? Why is it seems like...
Because in one instance, we take title, so now we're in the chain of title. Even if it's temporary, we've taken title.
But we can't go on and actually clean it up unless we take ownership. Under the temporary incidents of ownership that we took to be able to do the investigation work, that's all we can do is investigation
Right, I
work.
understand that, but the brownfield part, where we get a grant to clean it up...
Well, then that absolutes you from the property. You're not held accountable for the property if you get a grant and you go in and clean it up.
Do we own it?
It's the beauty of state law.
No.
It's written in
No
the state
reason
law.
other than...
Unless,
Mr. Chairman?
unless they've changed
I
the
think-
program dramatically, which I doubt. The brownfield program has a pre-release condition standard of cleanup. That's number 1. Not a risk-based standard, but a pre-release standard of cleanup. And then from that point on, I believe the state indemnifies you going forward. They stand behind it with its full faith, not backwards, but forward. And so that makes it so that you then can take title, because you know that, you have that indemnification,
Well,
going forward. But again, the standard there is pre-release conditions.
Why don't they give that to us for taking our own initiative and spending our own money to do the same thing?
Different process.
Well, they do have another program, I believe, called Voluntary Cleanup Program, which is, I'm sure you'll discuss with the state as well. That's a little different program, but I don't believe that involves state indemnifications. Am I correct
Restoration
on that,
environmental
Counselor?
Not aware
testing
of it.
program. They have a restoration environmental testing program out there right now as well. 'Cause that was something that they had spoke with us about at our meeting.
Supervisor Leggett, you have something?
So is it that for us to do the cleanup, we have to take title? For a brownfield, we do not have to take title?
Right, you have temporary title.
For the brownfield?
That's correct.
Under the brownfield,
Under
yeah.
the brownfield. So basically, it's who owns the land to get
Well,
the job done.
Again, if we took temporary title, cleaned it up, and then, it seems like a
Well,
abstract reason, right?
This all started years ago when we started having contaminated sites, and tax foreclosures started happening, and the DEC stepped in and forced the municipalities who took the title to clean the parcels
Right.
up, okay? So then, the outcry, of course, from the counties went to the state legislature. The state passed these laws that allowed, the temporary incidents. I don't know what Brian, I can't remember what the law is, but anyway, basically, the state legislature passed these rules and laws that said, okay, this is how it's gonna handle. And it's like, I can't remember who said it at the table, but that's just the way the state set it up. There was no actual rhyme or reason other than the fact that they were trying to give, the ability to the local municipalities to try to figure out what was going on without having to pay to clean it up.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Just one more thing. Should we maybe send a thing to the legislature asking them to modify their law so we can clean them up?
You mean like a little memo, or you wanna get serious about this, Jim?
Well, like we do for other things.
The problem,
Memo will do, though.
the problem is some of these cleanups can get into the millions of dollars. And once you get started, I don't think you can stop. And so I don't know that that's something that we really wanna get into.
Well, case by case.
Yeah.
Claudia, did you have something?
No, just to say that the brownfield program, Brian can add, I'm sure, is very, very complicated.
Oh, I know. I've
And
been
it's
through
not
it.
something that we are gonna change, I don't think, on a case-by-case basis. We
No,
can't-
I
we
went
can't do
through
that.
Yeah, they've had a couple little lawsuits on those things. Nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn? Peter? Brian? We're done. Thanks, Alex.